Welcome. You've brought us some really interesting sources this time. We're diving deep into female orgasm, yeah, especially in partnered sex.
That's the plan.
So our mission today is basically to pull out the key insights, give listeners a clearer understanding, maybe a path to achieving orgasm more consistently, particularly during intercourse.
Exactly. And we'll be focusing a lot on something called the Orgasm Loop. It's from Susan Crain Bakos, detailed in the materials you shared.
The orgasm loop.
Think of it as a mind-body technique designed to tackle those mental roadblocks, the things that can get in the way of orgasm.
And the sources really break down how it works.
Oh yeah, they go into the steps, the why behind it, all of that.
Good, because it feels like a really important topic, doesn't it? Even with, everything we know now about sex.
It's still a challenge for many.
Right. The sources highlight that difficulty many women still face reaching orgasm, especially during intercourse. The numbers are, well, they're significant.
They are. Something like 65% of women often need that extra clitoral stimulation during intercourse.
65%. Wow.
And then you've got, what, 10 to 20% who seldom or maybe never reach orgasm?
Yeah, and didn't one study back in '99, I think, suggest something like 43% of women were sexually dissatisfied? It's a lot.
It is. So this female orgasm strikeout, as the sources put it, there are reasons.
Okay, let's unpack those. Why does this happen so often?
Well, several things seem to be tangled up together biologically. Intercourse itself, it's primarily set up for male orgasm. Penile friction is the main driver there.
Right, and for most women.
For most women, it's direct clitoral stimulation that's the more reliable path. And the clitoris, being external, often just doesn't get enough direct action during intercourse alone.
So it's almost like a design difference, a mechanical thing.
Partly, yeah. But it's not just biology. The sources also really point to societal stuff, psychological influences, like the discomfort many women feel about touching themselves during sex.
That old chestnut.
Exactly. There are all these messages, sometimes subtle, sometimes not, that discourage women from exploring or touching their own genitals.
More so than for men, perhaps.
It seems to have a more lasting impact. Yeah, maybe tied to cultural attitudes or less direct awareness of their anatomy related to pleasure. It creates a real barrier to self-stimulation during partnered sex.
Even if that's exactly what's needed for orgasm.
Right.
It's like this idea that if you have to touch yourself, it somehow makes it less intimate, less connected, like it's a solo act happening during a shared thing.
Yes. That expectation that the partner's touch should be enough. And if it isn't, it feels like, I don't know, a failure.
Yeah.
And then there's that other persistent idea that for women, emotional intimacy is the real goal, maybe even more important than orgasm.
Which the sources argue against.
Strongly. They say, look, connection is vital, obviously. But orgasm itself, it actually deepens the bond. You get that release of neurochemicals, endorphins.
So it enhances intimacy, it doesn't replace it?
Exactly. It's not either.
Okay, so this whole challenge, orgasm during intercourse, it's not new? The sources mention the history a bit. Freud, Masters, and Johnson.
Right. From Freud's, let's say, less accurate ideas about vaginal versus clitoral orgasms.
We've moved past that, hopefully.
To the really groundbreaking work of Masters and Johnson, then Whipple identifying the G-spot, Kerner talking about clitoracy.
Literacy. Love that.
Yeah.
Knowing your clitoris.
Yes. But even with all that knowledge, the core issue persists for many women, especially with intercourse.
Which brings us to this new theory of orgasm the sources talk about. What's new about it?
It really shifts the focus to the mental side. The argument is that often the main block isn't physical, it's mental. Women might not even recognize their own body's arousal signals, or they subconsciously ignore them.
Is this where those university studies come in? Tulane and Washington University? With the brain scans and stuff?
Precisely. Those studies were fascinating. They measured physical responses, heart rate, breathing, vasocongestion, blood flow, lubrication, while women looked at erotic images. And physiologically, women's bodies responded just as often, just as quickly as men's. Heart rate up, breathing faster, blood flow increasing. The fMRI scans even hinted that maybe women's brains process these suggestive images faster. But, subjectively, they reported feeling aroused less often than the men did.
So the body's saying yes, but the brain isn't always getting the message. A disconnect.
Exactly that. The sources call it the cognitive physiological feedback loop, or CPFL.
CPFL.
Okay. For men, feedback is often pretty direct, right? An erection is hard to miss. Clear cognitive feedback.
Yeah, fair point.
But for women, those initial signs of arousal can be more subtle, more internal. They might not strongly register in the brain as, okay, I'm turned on now.
I see. So the orgasm loop. It's designed to bridge that gap, help women consciously tune in.
You got it. It's about consciously noticing, visualizing, even encouraging that arousal that might otherwise get missed. It builds on those CPFL findings.
Making that mind-body connection stronger, more deliberate.
Precisely. Consciously linking the mind to what the body's already doing.
Okay, fascinating. So let's break down the loop itself. What are the actual steps involved?
Right. So it's described as a 3-step process. Step 1, absolutely crucial, is mental arousal.
Mental arousal.
It just means you deliberately close your eyes, you clear out the mental clutter, the shopping list, the work deadline, whatever.
Easier said than done sometimes.
Oh, definitely. But that's the goal. And then you actively visualize something that you personally connect with arousal.
And the examples they give are quite varied, aren't they? It's specifically not about picturing like a sex act or even your partner.
That's a really key point, yes. The examples are diverse. It could be visualizing the physical sensations in your own genitals, the swelling, the moisture, maybe a change in color.
Okay, quite direct.
Or it could be more abstract, like an opening flower they mention in Orchid, thinking of Georgia O'Keeffe's paintings. Very sensual.
Interesting. Like art-inspiring arousal.
Yeah. Or it could even be a color that feels evocative to you. Pink, red, maybe saffron yellow, which connects to Saraswati, the Hindu goddess of creativity, sensuality.
Wow, okay. Or even just a sunset.
Even a serene image, like a beach at sunset, if that sparks that feeling for you. The point is, it's personal. It evokes sensual pleasure within you.
So you find your image, and this becomes like a mental mantra, an erotic focus point.
Exactly. Your mental equivalent of an erotic mantra. It helps quiet down all the other mental noise.
And the emphasis on it not being your partner, at least at first. Why is that so crucial?
Well, the thinking is that our feelings about our partners are complex, right? They get mixed up with daily life, little annoyances, relationship dynamics.
Sure, love isn't always simple arousal.
Precisely. And those complex feelings could actually interfere with the pure, consistent feeling of arousal you're trying to build. By focusing on a personal internal image, you're tapping into something more reliable, maybe purer.
Accessing your own fundamental capacity for arousal, separate from the relationship stuff, makes sense. Love is complicated, arousal, simpler at its core, as the source says.
Exactly. Okay, so step 2 is energy focus.
Energy focus, moving beyond just the image.
Yeah. Now you're actively directing your mental, emotional, and physical energy. And the sources draw some interesting parallels here to, like, Eastern practices.
Ah, the martial arts and yoga connections. Chi and Kundalini.
Yes. You know, in martial arts, you have Chi, that vital energy centered below the navel. Kundalini Yoga talks about sexual energy coiled at the base of the spine. The O-loop borrows from that idea.
So you're cultivating a similar sense of focused energy.
Right. You're using your focus to amplify physical sensations, directing attention inward.
And there's a specific breathing technique for this, fire breathing.
Yes, fire breathing. It's deep, rhythmic breathing, but with a very specific intention.
Okay, how does that work?
You imagine your breath is hot, that it carries sexual energy. You visualize it circulating. Inhaling deeply, maybe feeling it come up from your genitals through your core, and then exhaling forcefully through your mouth. You create this kind of internal loop of erotic energy. It's meant to really heighten sensations and focus.
It's quite intense, very physical and deliberate.
Okay.
Okay, so mental arousal, energy focus. What's step 3?
Step 3 is physical moves.
Right, makes sense.
So while you're holding that mental image, doing the fire breathing, you add physical action, flexing your PC muscles.
The pelvic floor muscles, Kegels.
Exactly. Those muscles you use to stop peeing midstream. You consciously flex and release them, ideally in time with your breath.
And the purpose of that is?
It increases blood flow to the whole pelvic area, heightens awareness down there, and just physically intensifies the arousal you're building mentally and energetically.
Okay. And what about adding manual clitoral stimulation? Is that okay, or does it mean the loop isn't working?
Totally okay. The sources are clear on that. While maybe the ultimate goal for some is orgasm during intercourse without direct manual touch, adding it in can be really helpful, especially when you're learning or just if it feels good and helps you stay connected to your arousal. It's not cheating.
Good to know. It's about what works.
Exactly.
The sources also went into detail about Kegels, strengthening those PC muscles. It seemed like more than just a quick squeeze now and then.
Oh yeah, it's a proper workout plan for the pelvic floor. Short, quick squeezes, longer holds, varying it up.
And something called the push-out.
Yeah, a gentle downward push after you release the squeeze apparently helps with awareness. Plus, more advanced stuff like Laura Berman's variation with leg raises or using resistance devices.
Kegel Master 2000. Kegel barbells.
Seriously,
Really?
shower kegels. The idea is stronger muscles mean better blood flow, more nerve sensitivity, more control, potentially more intense orgasms. It all feeds back into the loop.
Building that mind-muscle connection down there seems really central.
Absolutely fundamental.
Now, the sources strongly suggest starting this whole O-loop practice solo with masturbation. Why start alone?
Several really good reasons. First, it lets you really learn your unique arousal patterns. Without any pressure or distraction from a partner, you can just focus entirely on that internal connection, mind and body.
Establishing that foundation, that feedback loop we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Men often get that more automatically, but women might need to consciously cultivate it. Second, the sources point out that orgasm during masturbation is often felt more intensely.
Really? Why is that?
Well, think about it. Solo orgasm is mostly physical and mental. Partnered sex adds layers, emotional connection, psychological factors, maybe performance anxiety, that can sometimes dilute the pure physical intensity. So exploring solo helps you understand your body's peak potential.
Like getting a clearer baseline reading of your own pleasure capacity.
Kind of, yeah. And the third reason is just the general benefits of masturbation itself.
Right. They really push back against any old negative ideas.
Totally. They highlight the positives. Good for cardiovascular health, maybe. Stress relief. Boosts imagination, keeps things viable during celibacy, improves mood, self-esteem. It's framed as healthy, empowering.
And it probably takes some pressure off the relationship too, right? If your orgasm doesn't solely depend on your partner doing everything perfectly.
Huge point. You can relax more, enjoy the journey. As Lonnie Barback apparently said, it's fundamental for a woman to learn how she gets aroused in orgasms. Self-knowledge first.
Okay, so you practice solo, get familiar with the loop. Then the sources suggest using a vibrator as a bridge to partnered sex. Why the vibe?
Yeah, it's positioned as a useful transitional tool, a bridge between that solo exploration and the shared experience.
That is a bridge it.
Well, using a vibe with the O loop helps you practice integrating external stimulation without losing your internal focus. Unlike a partner's touch, which can vary, a vibrator gives consistent, controllable stimulation. You direct it, you adjust it, matching it to the O loop steps.
And maybe introduces new sensations, G-spot orgasms, multiples, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Potentially, yes. It expands the toolkit. Plus, they tackle that common worry about becoming dependent on it.
Ah, yeah, the vibrator ruined me for normal sex idea.
Right. The O-loop perspective is different. Having a vibe as a reliable tool can actually reduce anxiety. If you lose focus during partnered sex, you know you have a backup way to get there, so there's less pressure.
And sometimes just a quick buzz can kickstart things.
Yeah.
If you're feeling distracted.
Exactly. A few moments of focused vibration can reconnect you to your physical arousal, making it easier to then jump back into the loop, the image, the breathing, the flexing.
And they mention all the different types.
Yeah.
Wands, bullets, rabbits.
Yeah, a whole range. External, internal, G-spot specific, high-tech ones. They encourage exploring what feels best and guide you on how to weave that vibration into the O-loop steps, keeping the focus on the internal process.
Okay, so practice solo, maybe bridged with a vibrator. Now, the big step, bringing the O-loop into sex with a partner. How do you even start that conversation?
The advice is pretty low-key, actually. Doesn't need a big PowerPoint presentation. Just let your partner know you're exploring a new way to focus on your own arousal during sex. Emphasize it's about enhancing your experience, not that they need to change anything, at least not right away.
So it's framed positively. Most partners would be okay with that, you'd hope.
You'd hope. The idea is to give yourself permission to be a bit selfish initially. Focus on your sensations without feeling guilty. And importantly, try not to micromanage your partner's moves, especially at first.
Why is that so important? Less directing.
Yeah, instead of constantly saying, do this, not that, or feeling like you have to guide every touch to get there, the goal is to gradually integrate what they're already doing into your O-loop practice.
Like learning a dance together. You feel them, respond, but keep your own rhythm.
Exactly like that. You're still feeling them, enjoying them, but your primary focus stays on your arousal image, your energy flow, your muscle flexing. It actually lets the partner relax too and not feel like they're solely responsible for making you come.
Takes the pressure off everyone.
Right. And there are ways they can be involved without taking over, like doing the fire breathing together.
Oh, interesting. synchronized breathing.
Or both visualizing that energy flow. And they mention sexercises too.
Sexercises, like pelvic thrusts.
Sort of. Things like pelvic tilts, yeah. Or the butt bump, gently bumping pelvises during intercourse, or the belly roll, those circular hip movements. They're not part of the loop, but they help.
How do they help?
They loosen up the pelvis, increase flexibility, strengthen the muscles used in sex. Plus, moving together like that can boost mood, maybe release some pheromones, creates a more charged atmosphere that supports the O loop.
Creates the right environment. Okay, so what's in it for the partner? Why should they be enthusiastic?
Good question. The sources list clear benefits for the lover. First, when you orgasm, your body releases oxytocin, the cuddle chemical, that boosts feelings of bonding between you.
Nice. Shared benefit.
Second, orgasm during lovemaking significantly bumps up prolactin levels, a hormone linked to sexual desire. So your pleasure can actually fuel more desire in the relationship for both of you.
A positive feedback loop for desire itself.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe the biggest thing, it eases that pressure they might feel to make you orgasm. They can relax, enjoy the connection, knowing you're actively working on your own pleasure.
And if they join in with the breathing or visualizing?
They might find their own arousal heightens too. It becomes more of a shared energetic experience.
Okay, let's get specific. Integrating the O loop with, say, oral sex. Cunnilingus often has this pressure attached, doesn't it? Like, it's the guy's job to give the woman an orgasm this way.
Huge pressure sometimes. The O loop changes that dynamic. It's not that oral sex isn't pleasurable, it absolutely can be. But you're not solely relying on it for orgasm. You're using the loop to amplify the pleasure you're receiving, rather than depending on their technique alone.
Takes the passivity out of it for the receiver. Yeah. Are there tips for, like, positioning or communication during cunnilingus to help stay focused on the lip?
Yeah, finding positions where you feel more in control, less passive, can help, especially if maybe your partner's technique is a bit intense or not quite right. Using pillows to change angles, finding ways to breathe deeply and flex those PC muscles, and using gentle cues, verbal or physical, to guide them without totally breaking your internal focus on the image and energy.
What about the other way around? Fellatio. Can you do the O loop while giving oral?
The sources say, possibly, but maybe trickier.
Why trickier?
Maintaining that intense internal focus, the image, the energy while actively performing fellatio could be challenging for some.
Yeah.
You might lose the thread, especially if your partner's getting close and you're anticipating a shift. But they do note, if you enjoy it, combining it could potentially lead to orgasm while giving oral, which isn't often talked about.
Interesting possibility. Okay, the main event for many, using the O loop during intercourse. The sources say any position can work, but maybe some minor adjustments help at first.
Right. Initially, you might find some positions make it physically easier to keep that breathing rhythm going, or to flex the PC muscles effectively.
And maybe less eye contact helps initially to stay inward.
That's suggested too, yeah. Less direct eye contact can sometimes help maintain that internal focus on your arousal image rather than getting caught up in the partner interaction, at least while you're learning.
Okay. Missionary is pretty standard. Any O-loop tweaks for that?
Yeah, a pillow under the shoulders is a classic suggestion. Changes the angle, lets you tilt your head back, close your eyes maybe, ease your focus. Experimenting with leg positions too, wrapped around their torso, feet on their chest gives you more leverage, more control over rhythm and depth. And they mention a flip it variation. You lie on your stomach, partner enters from behind, eliminates eye contact, gives you more control over the pace.
Oh, okay. What about side-by-side or rear entry? Common positions, too.
Side by side, where he's usually facing your back. You can try being slightly higher, maybe using his leg for leverage to control the angle. Rear entry, which often allows deeper penetration, can work well, too.
How so?
If he's behind you, you can really focus on engaging those PC muscles, pushing back against him rhythmically. He'll likely feel that, find it arousing, too. If he's underneath you in rear entry, you can take charge more, riding him, setting a rhythm that matches your breathing and flexing.
Taking control of the rhythm seems key.
Very much so.
What about sitting or standing positions? Any specific O-loop notes there?
Sitting, especially facing away, again offers more control over movement and less eye contact, good for focus. Standing can be good for quickies. Using stairs or something elevated allows different angles. In all of them, though, it comes back to consciously engaging the PC muscles and keeping that fire-breathing rhythm going.
Okay. And they even touched on anal intercourse briefly, mentioning yoga exercises.
Yeah, things like the horse gesture, root lock from yoga, suggested to build sensitivity and awareness there. And interestingly, They suggest maintaining eye contact during anal sex while doing the O loop, perhaps for better communication given the intensity.
Right, communication is key there.
Oh.
Okay, simultaneous orgasm. The big goal for some couples. Can the O loop help with that?
It definitely increases the odds, yeah. Because it helps you get to that high arousal state more reliably and maybe more quickly. The sources talk about adapting standard techniques for simultaneous orgasm, like longer foreplay, maybe a 69 finish to oral, the CAT position.
The coital alignment technique.
Right. Adapting those by integrating the O-loop principles. Your heightened awareness and muscle control can help you time things better, maybe pull your partner along with you.
Okay. What if you don't have a lot of time? Can you do a quickie O-loop, the ultimate quickie?
Absolutely adaptations for that, too. Things like starting already aroused, starting hot, maybe by self-pleasuring beforehand.
Preheating the oven, so to speak.
Huh. Yeah. Maybe even masturbating during the quickie. Adjusting position for maximum hotspot contact. Focusing intensely on your arousal image, not complex fantasy. Using lube if needed.
And they list hot spots for men and women.
Briefly, yeah. Key areas like C-spot, G-spot, AFE zone for women, H-spot, F-spot, P-zone for men. Standing and sitting are suggested as good quickie positions. The key adaptation is really accelerating the fire breathing and PC flexing while keeping that laser focus on the arousal image.
Going into overdrive. Got it. And multiple orgasms. The O-loop connection there.
Big potential connection. Physiologically, women don't have that refractory period, right? So multiples are theoretically possible for everyone.
But not everyone experiences them regularly.
Right. Surveys suggest maybe 10% do regularly, but the O-loop can help make them more attainable because it helps you sustain high arousal through the first orgasm and beyond.
Oh, what's the technique?
The absolute key seems to be consciously continuing the fire breathing and PC flexing right through the initial orgasm. Don't stop.
Keep the engine running.
Exactly. Other compatible techniques mentioned are starting warm, alternating stimuli, using hands, aiming for G-spot orgasms specifically, but sustaining that breathing and flexing is core to O-loop multiples.
Okay, wow. It really seems like a flexible toolkit. Now, the source also talked about using it in special needs situations, like for women on Prozac or other SSRIs. Those can affect orgasm, right?
Yeah, that's a really common and difficult side effect. Low desire, trouble reaching orgasm. The sources acknowledge SSRIs can kind of dull the nerve pathways.
So can the O-loop still work?
They emphasize, yes, it can still work, but it might take more patience, more persistence. They highlight the mind-body power, even referencing research on orgasm in women with spinal cord injuries involving the vagus nerve pathway.
So alternative routes to pleasure.
Exactly. Specific steps are suggested. Maybe start with a vibe to get arousal going, then really focus hard on the arousal image and energy direction, then reintroduce the vibe with the breathing and flexing, and crucially, let go of worrying about immediate orgasm. Be patient.
Working with the body, not against it. Makes sense. What about aging? The aging O-loop for women over 40, libido changes.
For sure. Hormones shift, lifestyle changes, health issues, relationship stuff, even just societal expectations about aging and sex. Lots of factors.
But the O-loop can still help.
Definitely. By actively stimulating arousal, increasing that crucial blood flow, keeping the pelvic floor muscles toned with the exercises, it counteracts some of those age-related changes. Plus, they mention things like HRT with medical advice, of course, lubricants, continuing Kegels, and they note the positive shift in media portrayal of older women's sexuality helps too.
Good point. And lastly, the celibate O-loop. For times without a partner.
Yeah, reframing that alone time. It doesn't have to be sexless. Sexuality is part of vitality, partner or no partner.
So use the O-loop with masturbation.
Exactly. Keep that connection to your own sexuality alive and well. They even talk about using the loop to have more intense, prolonged solo orgasms by continuing the breathing and flexing through climax.
Extending the pleasure.
Yeah. And maybe exploring whole body orgasms, which the energy focus might facilitate. Using toys with fantasy. Even the possibility, for some, of orgasm without direct genital touch, just through intense mental and energetic focus via the loop, or exploring anal toy play.
So it really is versatile, maintaining sexual connection with yourself.
That's the idea.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the main takeaway, the core message for listeners?
I think the central message is that this orgasm loop, it offers real, concrete tools, techniques to tackle those barriers, the mental stuff, that often get in the way of consistent, satisfying orgasms, especially with a partner. It puts the focus back inside, giving you agency, control over your own arousal and pleasure.
That is a really empowering way to look at it. Okay, so as we finish up, here's a final thought for you, our listener, to mull over. Which part of this orgasm loop discussion really struck a chord with you? Was it the idea of finding your own personal arousal image? Or maybe the power of that mind-body link through breath and muscle?
Just take a moment, think about how you might start exploring that in your own life. Doesn't matter about relationship status or specific challenges, just what images pop up when you think about pure, raw arousal for you could be a really interesting place to start.
Definitely.
It's been truly illuminating digging into this. Thanks for guiding us through it.